Hey pilots, Craig in with Paraglider Service USA, and today we're going to go over how to do a line replacement in the field, an upper line replacement without taking the line cascade apart. We're going to replace a line in its place. An upper line is going to be cut out, the damaged one, and we're going to put in one at equivalent length in its place without taking the lower line, lower midline, and midline apart. This upper line is going to be replaced right in place. So here's the, let's say the upper line that goes to the canopy, and this is the upper midline that we're replacing. So the other opposite end, we're going to have an end loop made. We're going to make here is a bromo lock splice. So I won't go over that in this video, but you can look those up online on YouTube on how to make a bromo lock splice when you have the opposite end available. And basically, just real quick refresher here, all you're doing here is, the tail is going to be 50 times the diameter of the line length. The end loop is about 30 millimeters, 2 fingers, and then the tail is about the length of your hand for paraglider lines. And this is going to be hole A on this side of the end loop, and the standing part of the line is going to be hole B. And so A is going to go through B, and then the very end of B is going to go just a little lower than that back through it as well, and then that'll make a locking splice. And then we take that tail, this tail A, and we're going to insert it inside the core of this, and that's the locking splice, bromo locking splice, when the tail is available. Now in this case here, we've already made that, and we've hooked it on to the upper end. Let's say this is the loop that's made, and we will go ahead and put it in and slide the bitter end of this line that this loop is the bromo lock splice, and when the other end of this is going to come through this loop, so we make the handshake lock here, and then to connect this to the other end of, meaning the lower midline, so the upper midline to the lower midline, we're going to make a bromo splice or splice that's not a bromo lock splice because the other end's fixed, so we can't make it. And so I'll show you how I go about that. So you're going to go into the loop. This is the lower midline. This is the upper midline that we're replacing, or upper line for that matter. Doesn't matter. You're going to go around the back of it, back through the loop itself, okay, to make the handshake, the typical line-to-line connection of a handshake like that, see? And we want our loop to be about 30 millimeters, 20 to 30 millimeters, so a finger or two in length, like so. And then the tail, we want the tail the length of our hand. Doesn't hurt to be longer than normal. Usually it's about 100 millimeters. Okay, so there's she be. Okay, and now I'm going to make it a little bit longer. There we go. And now, instead of just inserting this inside of it, which is what we typically do, we'll splice it inside of the core of this line. It'll just slip out. Under tension, it'll lock like Chinese handcuffs. But if you were to, with some slack in it and pull on just the tail side, it'll come out. And if I was to go through the center of this standing part of the line and then a little bit lower than it, go back through the center of that and create somewhat of a lock splice, and then insert it inside its tail, because it's all one side, one half. If it was to be smooshed up, it can pull out as well. So that, it's not a true bromo locking splice like we would have done on the other side. But we're going to do that scenario like I just described, and I'll show you. So I'm going to insert line A through line B at the point where I would have the other side of the loop. So the loop's going to be this long, so I'm going to go ahead and poke this through guitar string. So this is guitar string, various diameters bent in half. A good pair of shears that you can get off Amazon for cutting Kevlar or Dyneema, and then a locking splice, a locking tweezers is always good, and then a marker. But I know the lengths of the end loops just by eye. I don't even need the marker, but anyhow, let's go ahead and insert this through real quick and show you what I'm talking about. To the center of this, we'll smoosh it up, insert it through the center, like so. Okay, then we're going to grab line A, which is the tail, and pull it through. Just like we'd make a bromo locking splice. We're going to go through the similar steps here. Bend it back, crease it, pull it back through line B, which is the standing part of the line. Sometimes you take it and just smoosh it up so it has some slack in there. There we go. So you pull that through. That's my end loop right here from point A to point B. Okay. And then I'm going to actually just a little bit lower it on the B portion, make another hole just below it, go through it, and pull this tail back through. So it went through that way. Now we're going to go back through that way. Normally we would take the tail here, but it's already fixed on the other end loop, and bring that through, and then it would make a true bromo lock splice. But because it's in a fixed location, it can't come apart. We're going to do it this way. It's not a true bromo lock splice. It's just all one side of the line. It's always just line A going back and forth. And so it's going to lock better than just splicing it through the center, but it's not going to be to the same degree as a bromo lock splice. Okay, fold that back. Oops, I'm not doing too good here. You just don't ever have caffeine before you splice lines. You can't, and be over 70 years old. It just doesn't work. Okay, bend that back. Now we're going to pull it through the line, smoosh it up a little bit so it's go through easier, and then pull it through. There we go, like so. And then so as you see, it went, line A went through one way, and now it's going through the other way. Okay, and it looks like it would lock it, but it really won't, because it's just one half of the line. And then we're going to take this piece and insert it into the core here. Okay, but if I was to pull just that one side, it'll have some resistance. It'll fight me, but it can be taken out. So what we're going to do is we're going to hand stitch this. Just all you need is about 4 or 5 stitches. I'll do about 30 millimeters of hand stitching here, and it won't. That way it's really secure. So we'll go a little past where the tail is, and we'll insert our guitar string, and we're going to bring it into the core now. It's in the core, and I'll just feed it in the core now, all the way up to the apex here. Oh, as far as we can get her. And then we're going to, oops, I poked out too soon, so I'll back up. Back up. Oop, back up. Keep poking out. I usually go the other direction. I'm going left to right, and I always go right to left. So I'm fumbling because it's not the way I normally go. Okay, so we're going to poke through right about there. Okay, and this tail, we're going to grab her now, spread open my guitar string enough so I can get it through without snagging it, bend it back so it creases, so it's less thick, less thinner than it would be otherwise. Okay, and now we're gonna pull it through. And so I kind of roll my fingers, and now it's inside of it, and then I just keep pulling it inside, and this part is going to get smaller and smaller because it's going to come through the other end now. And I went way past where the tail would be, so when I do milk it, it's going to disappear inside of it. Okay, so there it is. Now I'm going to pull this tail here until this is straight, like that. Okay, and there she be straight. So my loop is even on both sides. And now I'm just going to milk it, pinch it right here, and milk it down until that tail disappears inside of the line, like so. And this acts like Chinese handcuffs. And this, when you pull this thing tight, it's not going to come undone. But this is not a true bromo lock splice because it's only one half of the line going, the A side of the line going in and out. And so what we'll do is we'll hand stitch this with some polyester, bonded polyester Tex 45 thread for the thinner lines, and the line this thick here will go bonded polyester thread Tex 70. And we'll just, we'll start here and go backwards a couple stitches, and then we'll go forward, so it ends up being a little bit of a reverse stitch. And then we'll go 30 millimeters, a little more, then we'll go back a little bit, a few stitches, and then we'll cut the thread ends and melt them down. Don't use a lighter. And you can just let them hang out if that, because the tension of this will keep it. But this unsheathed air mitt is heat resistant, so it's not such a concern. You can use a cigarette lighter, but if this is unsheathed Dyneema, don't use a cigarette lighter to melt your thread ends, because it's not heat resistant. Okay, so anyhow, that's how you do a non-blocked bromo splice and secure it. We're going back and forth, but then we're hand stitching it, for about that long, about 30, 40 millimeters. And that way, with this little bit of a lock and then that hand stitching, it's going to be good in the field. This is what I call temporary fix. This is till you order a line when you get back home and replace it later on. But for field replacement, where you want to continue to fly, this will be safe and good enough for the day. Take care. Fly safe.